The war room fell silent as High Chancellor Vorn delivered the news. Kalara Vek stood at attention, her scales reflecting the cold blue light of the holographic display. 3 more colony worlds had fallen to the void swarm in the past month. The numbers were staggering. Millions dead. Entire civilizations consumed. "We need the humans," Vorn said quietly. His voice carried the weight of a leader who had run out of options. Kalara's tail twitched, the only sign of her displeasure. "Father, the humans are primitives. They've been part of the Galactic Coalition for less than 20 years. Their technology is inferior. Their ships are slow. They still use kinetic weapons like savages throwing rocks. And yet," Admiral Threx interrupted from across the table, "they've lost only 1 colony to the swarm. 1, while we've lost 12. The silence that followed was heavy. Kalara wanted to argue, but the facts were undeniable. The humans somehow were surviving where more advanced species were failing. Vorn stood, his ceremonial robes rustling. "The Galactic Council will grant us an alliance with the Human Federation. But there's a condition." Kalara knew what was coming before he said it. She'd studied galactic politics her entire life. Ancient traditions died hard, even in the age of starships and plasma weapons. "A blood bond," she said flatly. "A marriage alliance," her father nodded. "To ensure both sides honor the commitment. To create trust where there is currently suspicion. And you want me to be the sacrifice?" Kalara's voice was cold, emotionless. She was a soldier before she was a daughter. She understood duty. "I want you to save our people," Vorn replied. "You're my best commander. You're next in line for the throne. The humans will see this as a genuine gesture, not an empty political move." Kalara looked at the star map, at the red markers indicating swarm activity. They were spreading like a plague, consuming everything in their path. Her people were dying. What was one life, even hers, compared to that? "I'll do it," she said. 3 days later, she stood in the diplomatic chamber waiting to meet her future husband. She'd reviewed his file. Commander Ryan Blake, age 34, veteran of the Outer Rim conflicts. His service record was impressive, filled with commendations for tactical innovation and personal bravery. But the psychological evaluations troubled her. Words like reckless, insubordinate, and survivor's guilt appeared frequently. The human delegation entered. Kalara's keen eyes assessed them quickly. Admiral Helena Cruz led the group, a woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind her walked a man in a simple military uniform. Ryan Blake was smaller than she expected. Most humans were short compared to Zenthari, but she'd thought a commander would be more physically imposing. He was just under 6 feet tall, with dark hair and tired brown eyes. A scar ran along his left jaw. He moved with economy, not the aggressive posture many human soldiers adopted. "Princess Kalara," Admiral Cruz said formally. "May I present Commander Ryan Blake?" Ryan stepped forward and offered a human salute, fist over heart. "Your Highness, it's an honor." His voice was quiet, controlled. Kalara had expected arrogance or perhaps nervousness. Instead, he seemed simply resigned, as if this was just another mission to complete. "Commander," she replied coolly, "I trust you understand the significance of this arrangement." "I do." "A political alliance to fight a common enemy." His eyes met hers directly. Most species found Zenthari eye contact aggressive, even hostile. Ryan didn't flinch. "I'll do my duty." "As will I," Kalara said. The negotiations took 3 days. Lawyers and diplomats argued over terms, territory rights, military command structures, and 1,000 other details. Kalara and Ryan were required to attend, sitting in the same room but rarely speaking to each other. On the second day, during a break, Ryan approached her on the observation deck. "You don't want this," he said without preamble. Kalara's scales rippled, a sign of irritation. "My wants are irrelevant. My people need this alliance." "Same here." Ryan looked out at the stars. "I lost people to raiders. Colonies that could have been saved if we'd had better ships, better weapons, better alliances. I won't let it happen again." There was something in his voice, a depth of pain that Kalara recognized. She'd lost soldiers under her command, watched friends die in battles she couldn't win, but she kept her expression neutral. "Then we understand each other, Commander. This is duty, nothing more." "Nothing more," Ryan agreed. The wedding ceremony was a strange blend of traditions. Zenthari customs required the exchange of ancestral blades, symbolizing trust and shared defense. Human tradition called for rings and spoken vows. They did both in a sterile hall filled with diplomats and military officials. Kalara wore her formal armor, polished until it gleamed. Ryan wore his dress uniform, simple and unadorned except for his rank insignia and service ribbons. They spoke the words they were required to speak, exchanged the items they were required to exchange, and sealed the alliance with a brief, formal kiss that meant nothing to either of them. Admiral Cruz looked pleased. High Chancellor Vorn looked relieved. Kalara felt empty. That night, aboard the Joint Command ship Valiant Dawn, Kalara stood in her assigned quarters. They were spacious, fitted with both Xanthari and human accommodations. Ryan had separate quarters 3 doors down. They had agreed immediately that the marriage would remain purely political. No one expected them to actually live as husband and wife. She accessed the ship's communication system and reviewed the military reports. The swarm was still advancing. The Alliance had bought them time and resources, but the war was far from over. A chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. Ryan stood in the corridor, still in uniform. "We need to discuss tomorrow's briefing." The Joint Command structure. Kalara gestured him inside. They sat at opposite ends of her conference table and worked through tactical displays for 2 hours. It was easier this way, focusing on strategy and logistics rather than the strangeness of their situation. "Your people rely heavily on energy shields and plasma weapons," Ryan observed. "Long range, high precision." "Because it's effective," Kalara replied. "Why risk close combat when you can eliminate threats from a distance?" "Because shields fail. Ships get boarded. Sometimes you have to fight with whatever you have." Ryan pulled up footage from a recent human engagement with the swarm. "We trained for worst-case scenarios," Kalara watched human soldiers drilling in brutal hand-to-hand combat. They practiced with knives, with improvised weapons, with their bare hands. It looked savage to her eyes. "You prepare to fight like animals," she said. Ryan's expression didn't change. "We prepare to survive." There's a difference. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a routine. They met daily to coordinate their forces. The Valiant Dawn housed both human and Xanthari crews, and integration was rocky. Human soldiers found Xanthari protocols too rigid. Xanthari officers thought humans were dangerously informal. Kalara and Ryan spent more time together than either had anticipated, mediating disputes and adjusting training schedules. They took meals in the officers' mess, sitting together out of necessity. They were supposed to present a united front. One evening, Ryan brought 2 cups of dark liquid to their table. "Coffee," he explained. "Human drink. Thought you might want to try it." Kalara was surprised. It was a small gesture, personal rather than professional. She accepted the cup cautiously and took a sip. The taste was bitter but interesting, with complex notes she hadn't expected. "It's acceptable," she said. Ryan almost smiled. "High praise from a Xanthari." "Don't presume familiarity, Commander." "Wouldn't dream of it, Princess." But something had shifted, just slightly. They were still strangers bound by duty, but perhaps they didn't have to be enemies. The call came at 300 hours. A civilian station in the Meridian sector was under swarm attack. Evacuation was underway, but the station had thousands of inhabitants and limited transport capacity. Kalara and Ryan rushed to the bridge. The tactical display showed the station surrounded by swarm vessels, its shields failing section by section. "We can reach them in 40 minutes, the navigation officer reported. "Too long," Ryan said quietly, studying the display. Kalara made the decision quickly. "Prepare all ships for immediate deployment. Fighter squadrons launch first, establish a perimeter. Capital ships follow. Our priority is protecting the evacuation transports." The Valiant Dawn jumped to hyperspace along with the rest of their task force. Kalara felt the familiar tension before battle, the heightened awareness, the cold calculation required for command. When they emerged near the station, chaos greeted them. Swarm ships, organic and twisted, were tearing into the station's hull. Civilian transports fled in every direction, some exploding as swarm fighters pursued them. "All ships engage enemy fighters," Kalara ordered. "Protect the transports." The battle was fierce. Xanthari plasma weapons carved through swarm vessels with precision. Human kinetic cannons, slower but devastating at close range, tore apart anything they hit. Between them, they managed to push the swarm back from the evacuation routes. "Station commander reports all hangar sections evacuated," the communications officer announced. "They're requesting permission to abandon the station." Kalara checked the sensors. Most of the station was lost, consumed by swarm infestation. Permission granted. All remaining personnel evacuate immediately. The station's interior was a nightmare. Emergency lights flickered red, casting shadows that moved like living things. Ryan moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency, his rifle up, his team spread in tactical formation behind him. 8 Marines, all volunteers, all knowing this might be a one-way trip. Contact, whispered Corporal Stevens, the point man. 20 meters, multiple targets. Ryan saw them through his helmet display. Swarm creatures, twisted things that might have been biological once but were now something else. They skittered along walls and ceilings, mandibles clicking, searching for prey. Suppressed fire, Ryan ordered. We don't want to attract the whole hive. The team's weapons made soft coughing sounds. Swarm creatures fell, their bodies twitching before going still. Ryan stepped over them, moving deeper into the station. According to his sensors, the medical bay was 300 meters ahead, through 2 sealed bulkheads and a maintenance tunnel. On the Valiant Dawn, Kalara paced the bridge, her tail lashing in agitation. The station's internal sensors were failing, giving her only fragmentary data on Ryan's progress. Why would he do this? She muttered to herself. Admiral Helena Cruz had remained on the bridge. The older woman watched the displays with calm eyes. Because it's what humans do, Princess. We're not always smart about it, but we care. Sometimes too much. Caring doesn't win wars, Kalara said. No, Helena agreed. But it's what we fight for. Ryan learned that the hard way. Kalara turned to her. His file mentioned losses. Personal losses. Helena's expression softened with old grief. He had a family. Wife, daughter. Colony world called New Haven. Raiders hit it 8 years ago before the swarm. Ryan was off-world on assignment. By the time he got back, she didn't need to finish. Kalara felt something uncomfortable twist in her chest. She'd assumed Ryan was just another reckless soldier seeking glory. But this was something else. This was a man who knew exactly what it meant to be too late. Inside the station, Ryan's team reached the first bulkhead. It was sealed tight, emergency protocols engaged. Private Chen, their tech specialist, moved forward with cutting tools. 2 minutes, Chen said, beginning to work. Ryan kept watch on the corridor behind them. His motion sensors showed movement, lots of it, converging on their position. Work faster, he said quietly. The cutting torch screamed as it bit into metal. The noise would attract every swarm creature within 100 meters, but they had no choice. Time was running out. 30 seconds, Chen called out. Ryan saw them coming, a wave of swarm creatures flooding down the corridor like a living tide. Contact rear! Defensive positions! The team turned and fired. The corridor became a killing ground, human weapons tearing through swarm bodies. But there were too many. For every creature that fell, 2 more appeared, bulkheads open. Chen shouted, "Fall back through," Ryan ordered. "I'll cover." The team moved through the opening one by one. Ryan stood in the gap, firing in controlled bursts. A swarm creature leaped at him from the ceiling. He pivoted and shot it in midair, then kicked its corpse into the path of the others. "Blake, move." Stevens yelled from the other side. Ryan fired his last magazine empty, dropped through the bulkhead, and Chen sealed it behind him with an emergency weld. The creatures slammed against it a moment later, but the metal held. "Everyone good?" Ryan asked, checking his team. 2 Marines had minor injuries, nothing serious. They'd made it through the first obstacle. 2 more to go. On the bridge, Kalara watched her tactical display light up with swarm signatures. The entire station was becoming active, the creatures swarming toward Ryan's team like antibodies attacking an infection. "They're trapped," her tactical officer said. "Swarm activity is increasing exponentially. Can we extract them?" Kalara asked. "Not without sending more troops. The landing bay they used is now compromised." Kalara made a decision. "Prepare a boarding team. Send Thari warriors, heavy plasma weapons. We're going after them." Her communications officer looked surprised. "Princess, you can't." "I can and I will. Prepare my armor." Admiral Helena Cruz stepped forward. "Princess, if both of you are lost, then you'll take command," Kalara said. "But I'm not leaving them in there. The alliance means nothing if we abandon our own people at the first difficulty." She paused. When had she started thinking of Ryan as our people? The thought troubled her, but there was no time to examine it. Ryan's team reached the maintenance tunnel. It was narrow, barely wide enough for a human in combat armor. They'd have to go single file, vulnerable. "I don't like this," Steven said, shining his light into the darkness. Neither do I, Ryan admitted. But it's the only way. They entered the tunnel. The air was thick with moisture and the smell of decay. Swarm infestation showed in patches of organic material growing on the walls, pulsing with sickly light. Halfway through, Chen stopped. Commander, I'm reading something ahead. Big reading. Ryan moved forward carefully. The tunnel opened into a larger space, some kind of junction. And there, filling most of the chamber, was something massive. A swarm broodmother. Her body bloated and covered in pulsing sacs. She was creating more creatures, birthing them into the darkness. Back up, Ryan whispered. Slowly. But one of the Marines, Private Williams, stepped on something that crunched. The broodmother's head swiveled toward them, multiple eyes glowing in the darkness. She screamed, a sound that vibrated through the metal walls. Run! Ryan shouted. The team sprinted through the tunnel as the broodmother birthed warrior forms, fully grown and immediately aggressive. Ryan threw a grenade behind them, buying seconds. The explosion shook the tunnel and part of it collapsed, blocking pursuit. They emerged on the other side, gasping for breath. The medical bay was just ahead, one more sealed door between them and the survivors. Chen went to work on the lock. This one was easier. Standard security rather than emergency lockdown. The door slid open. Inside, 43 people huddled in the dark. Civilians, medical staff, patients who couldn't be moved during the initial evacuation. When they saw the Marines, several started crying with relief. All right, Ryan said, keeping his voice calm. Everyone who can walk, stay together. Anyone who needs help, sound off. There were 12 patients on stretchers, 2 injured or sick to move on their own. Ryan did the math quickly. Not enough Marines to carry everyone. Stevens, take 6 people and start moving the mobile civilians back to the landing bay. Chen, you're on point. I'll stay with the rest and bring up the patients. Stevens hesitated. Sir, you need more people. That's an order, Corporal. Stevens saluted and began organizing the evacuation. Ryan turned to the remaining Marines and the medical staff. Okay, let's figure out how to move these stretchers. That's when Kaylara's voice came through his communicator. Blake, where are you? Medical bay. We found survivors. 43 total. Stay there. I'm coming to you with a team. Ryan blinked in surprise. You're what? Don't argue. Just hold your position. We'll be there in 5 minutes. The communicator went dead. Ryan looked at his remaining Marines. Private Martinez grinned. Think your wife's worried about you, sir? She's not my wife, not really, Ryan said. But he found himself smiling slightly. And yeah, I think she might be. Kaylara moved through the station with brutal efficiency. Her Zenthari warriors were larger and stronger than humans, and their plasma weapons cut through swarm creatures with ease. She'd chosen her route carefully, avoiding the most infested areas, pushing hard for the medical bay. When they reached it, Ryan had organized a defensive perimeter. He looked relieved to see her. Glad you could make it, Princess. Someone has to keep you from getting killed, she said. How many survivors?
43.
12 need stretchers, Kalara assessed quickly. My warriors will carry the stretchers. Your team takes point. We move fast and hard, no stopping. The combined force began the journey back. It was slow, too slow. The swarm was fully aroused now, creatures flooding every corridor. The humans and Zenthari fought back to back, their different fighting styles complementing each other. Zenthari precision and power, human adaptability and determination. Kaylara found herself next to Ryan during a brief pause. You were right to come, she said quietly. I was wrong to forbid it. Ryan reloaded his rifle. You were thinking tactically. I was thinking emotionally. Sometimes both matter. How did you know? She asked. That you could save them? I didn't, Ryan admitted. But I had to try because, he paused. Because I know what it's like to be the person who arrives too late. Before Kaylara could respond, another wave of swarm creatures attacked. They fought their way through, losing ground slowly, buying every meter with blood and plasma fire. They reached the landing bay to find it swarming with creatures. The evacuation was going to be a nightmare. All ships, this is Princess Kalara, she said into her communicator. We need fire support on the landing bay, danger close. The Valiant Dawn's guns opened up, precision strikes that cleared the bay without hitting the landing pad. It was beautiful and terrifying, the kind of firepower that could crack planets. The survivors loaded onto the dropships. Marines and warriors provided covering fire. One of the civilians, an older woman, grabbed Ryan's arm as she boarded. "Thank you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for not leaving us." Ryan just nodded. He didn't trust himself to speak. The weeks after the station rescue changed something aboard the Valiant Dawn. Human and Xanthari crew members who had barely spoken before now worked together more easily. They'd seen their commanders fight side by side, risk everything for civilians who weren't even their own species. It made the alliance feel real instead of just words on a treaty. Kaylara found herself spending more time with Ryan. It started as necessity. They had to coordinate their forces, plan joint operations, review intelligence reports. But the late-night strategy sessions in the war room began to feel less like duty and more like something else. Ryan brought coffee now without asking. Kaylara had developed a taste for the bitter human drink. Sometimes she brought him Xanthari spiced tea, which he claimed to enjoy even though she suspected he was being polite. One evening, after a particularly long briefing, Ryan pulled up a tactical simulation on the display. "Look at this. The swarm's movement patterns." Kaylara studied the holographic map. Red dots showed swarm fleet positions over the past 3 months. They're circling, exactly. They're not just spreading randomly, they're surrounding something. Ryan zoomed in on a specific sector. Here, the Keswick system. "I think they're building a major hive there." "Intelligence hasn't confirmed that," Kaylara said, "because intelligence is looking at each attack separately, but if you plot them all together..." Ryan showed her the pattern. The swarm had been systematically eliminating every possible approach to Keswick, clearing the space around it. Kaylara felt her scales ripple with understanding. They're preparing defenses. Which means whatever they're building there is important. Important enough to risk a direct assault on, Ryan agreed. If we hit them before they finish, we might be able to destroy the hive before it spawns. They spent the next 3 hours planning. Ryan's tactical mind impressed Kaylara. He thought in 3 dimensions, considering not just the obvious approaches but the unlikely ones, the dangerous ones that might catch the enemy off guard. "You're good at this," she said finally. Ryan shrugged. "I've had a lot of practice losing. You learn from losses better than wins. Is that why you take such risks? Because you've lost before?" He was quiet for a moment. "Helena told you. About my family, she mentioned it." "I'm sorry." Ryan stared at the star map. "I was on patrol when it happened. Routine assignment, nothing dangerous. Raiders hit the colony while I was gone. By the time I got back..." He stopped, swallowed. "I found them. Lisa and Emma. They'd tried to hide in the basement. It wasn't enough." Kaylara didn't know what to say. Xanthari didn't offer comfort easily. It wasn't their way. But she found herself reaching across the table, placing her hand near his. "Not touching but close. I became a soldier because I was too late," Ryan continued. "Every mission, every fight, I tell myself this time I'll be fast enough. Strong enough. This time I won't lose anyone." "But you can't save everyone," Kaylara said softly. "I know. But I have to try," she understood then. Ryan's recklessness wasn't about glory or adrenaline. It was about a man trying to outrun his grief, trying to fill a hole that could never be filled. "Your people are lucky to have you," she said. Ryan looked at her, surprise in his tired eyes. "That's the first time you've said something like that." "I've been..." Kaylara searched for the right word. "Wrong about humans. About you. I thought you were primitives playing at war. But you fight for reasons we've forgotten. What reasons are those? You fight for each other. Not for territory or resources or glory. You fight because you care." She paused. "It's terrifying and beautiful at the same time." Ryan smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "That might be the nicest thing you've ever said to me." "Don't let it go to your head, Commander." But she was smiling too. A small expression that felt strange and good. The intelligence report came 3 days later. Xanthari scouts had confirmed Ryan's theory. The swarm was building a massive hive structure in the Keswick system, something bigger than anything they'd encountered before. The Galactic Council authorized a strike force, the largest combined fleet ever assembled. Xanthari cruisers with their plasma arrays, human destroyers with kinetic cannons, and support ships from a dozen other species. Kaylara and Ryan would command the vanguard. The night before the fleet deployed, Kaylara stood on the observation deck watching the stars. She felt the weight of command settling on her shoulders. Thousands of lives depending on her decisions. Can't sleep either. She turned to find Ryan approaching. He wore casual clothes, not his uniform, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Thinking about tomorrow, she admitted. Ryan stood beside her, both of them looking out at the stars. Want to know a secret? I'm terrified before every battle. You run toward danger like it's a game. That's exactly when I'm most scared, Ryan said, because I know what can go wrong. I've seen it. But being afraid doesn't mean you don't act. It means you act anyway. Kalara considered this. Xanthari culture values fearlessness. We're taught that fear is weakness. Fear is information, Ryan countered. It tells you what matters. You're afraid because you care about your people, about doing your job right. That's not weakness. That's what makes you a good commander. They stood in silence for a while. Then Kalara said, When this started, I saw you as a necessary inconvenience, a political tool to secure an alliance, and now I see a man who's too stubborn to give up, who cares too much and fights too hard, who makes terrible coffee but brings it anyway. Ryan laughed. My coffee isn't that bad. It's awful, Kalara said, but she was smiling. And I've grown fond of it anyway. Something shifted in the air between them. Ryan turned to face her fully. Kalara, The ship's alarm interrupted him. Emergency stations. Both of them were moving before the second klaxon sounded, running toward the bridge. The tactical display showed a nightmare. Swarm ships, dozens of them, had emerged from hyperspace on the edge of the system. They were early. The attack on Keswick wasn't supposed to happen for another 12 hours. It's a trap, Kalara said, her mind racing. They knew we were coming. Admiral Helena Cruz's face appeared on the screen from her ship. All vessels are reporting swarm contacts. They're surrounding us. The fleet had assembled near a supply station for final preparations. Now they were scattered, not in battle formation, vulnerable. How many? Ryan asked. The tactical officer's scales had gone pale. Current count is 200 plus. More arriving every minute. 200 swarm ships against their fleet of 60. The mathematics were brutal. We can retreat, Admiral Threx suggested from his cruiser. Fall back to the inner systems, regroup. No, Ryan said. If we retreat, they'll follow us. We'll lead them straight to our core worlds. Kalara understood immediately. We have to fight here. Buy time for civilian populations to evacuate. It's suicide, Threx protested. It's necessary, Kalara said. All ships, battle formation. Prepare to engage. The battle began badly and got worse. The swarm ships moved with coordinated precision, their numbers overwhelming. Xanthari cruisers fired their plasma arrays in beautiful deadly patterns. But for every swarm ship destroyed, 3 more appeared. Human destroyers dove into close range where their kinetic weapons were most effective, but they took terrible damage. Kalara watched ship names disappear from her tactical display, each one representing hundreds of lives lost. We need to break their formation, Ryan said, studying the patterns. They're coordinating from somewhere. A command ship. Kalara scanned the fleet. There. A larger swarm vessel hanging back from the main combat, broadcasting signals. Found it. But it's protected by at least 30 ships. Then we go through them, Ryan said. The Valiant Dawn, plus whatever ships can keep up. We punch through, destroy the command ship, disrupt their coordination. It was insane. It was also their only chance. All ships, Kalara ordered, form on the Valiant Dawn. We're making a run at their command vessel. 20 ships answered the call. The rest were too damaged or too engaged with enemy forces. It would have to be enough. The Valiant Dawn led the charge, human and Xanthari ships flying in close formation, covering each other, their weapons firing in synchronized patterns. They carved through the swarm fleet like a spear through flesh. Ships died. The human destroyer Carson took a direct hit and exploded. The Xanthari cruiser Skyblade lost all power and drifted helpless. But the rest pushed forward. Almost there, Ryan said. His hands danced over his tactical console, calling targets, coordinating fire. Kalara commanded the overall formation while Ryan managed the immediate combat. They worked together seamlessly, anticipating each other's moves, trusting each other's judgment. The Valiant Dawn shuddered as weapons fire struck her shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields at 40%, the defensive officer reported. Keep going, Kalara ordered. They reached the command ship. It was massive, organic and twisted, covered in pulsing veins that glowed with sickly light. All ships concentrate fire, Ryan commanded. Every weapon in their small fleet targeted the command ship. Plasma beams and kinetic rounds struck in a devastating barrage. The command ship's shields held for 10 seconds, 20, then collapsed. The hull began to tear apart, but as it died, it released something. Dozens of boarding pods launched directly at the Valiant Dawn. "Brace for impact," Kalara shouted. Kalara couldn't take it anymore. She watched Ryan's position on the tactical display, watched the life signs of his team dropping one by one. Her duty was here on the bridge, commanding the fleet. But her feet were already moving. "Admiral Threx, you have command of the fleet," she said into her communicator. "I'm going to repel boarders." She didn't wait for his response. She grabbed her plasma rifle and ran from the bridge. Her guards tried to follow, but she ordered them to stay. This was something she had to do herself. The corridors of her ship were a war zone. Bodies lay scattered, both swarm and crew. Emergency lights cast everything in red. She followed the sound of weapons fire, her heart pounding in a way it never did in normal battle. She found Ryan in Corridor 7, Section 12. He was still standing, barely. His armor was torn, blood running down his left arm. 3 Marines stood with him, all wounded, all still fighting. Ahead of them, a wall of swarm creatures pressed forward. Kalara's plasma rifle sang. The first shots took down 4 creatures. The swarm turned toward this new threat, and that moment of distraction was enough. Ryan and his team opened fire, catching the creatures in a crossfire. When the last creature fell, Ryan turned and saw her. His face was pale from blood loss, but he smiled. "Princess, fancy meeting you here?" "You're an idiot," Kalara said. Her hands were shaking, and she realized with surprise that she was terrified, not of the swarm, of losing him. "Yeah, well." Ryan swayed slightly. "Somebody has to be." He collapsed. Kalara caught him before he hit the ground. "Medic!" she shouted into her communicator. "Bridge level, Corridor 7 now." She held Ryan, feeling his blood soak into her uniform. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Did we win?" "The battle?" "Yes, the swarm fleet is retreating. You destroyed their coordination." "Good, that's good." His eyes closed again. "Ryan, stay awake. That's an order." "Can't court-martial me if I'm unconscious," he mumbled. The medical team arrived. Human and Xanthari medics worked together, their movements quick and efficient. Kalara watched them load Ryan onto a stretcher, watched them rush him toward the medical bay. She wanted to follow. Every instinct screamed at her to stay with him. But the battle wasn't over. Ships were still damaged, the fleet was scattered, and she was the commanding officer, duty or emotion. The same choice she'd faced her entire life. But this time, duty felt hollow. This time she wanted to choose him. "Princess?" It was Admiral Threx on her communicator. "We need you on the bridge. Status reports are coming in." Kalara took a deep breath. "On my way." She forced herself to walk toward the bridge even as her hearts pulled her toward the medical bay. The battle was won, but the cost was staggering. 15 ships destroyed completely, 20 more heavily damaged, thousands dead. The swarm had retreated, but they'd inflicted terrible losses. Kalara stood on the bridge, coordinating rescue operations, organizing triage, doing all the things a commander must do after a battle. But her mind was elsewhere. After 2 hours, Admiral Helena approached her. The older woman's face was lined with exhaustion and grief. "He's stable," she said quietly. "The doctors say he'll survive." Kalara felt something in her chest unclench. "Thank you for telling me." "You should go to him." "I can't. The fleet is secure," Helena said. "And you're no good to anyone if you can't focus. Go." "That's not a suggestion, Princess. It's advice from someone who's seen too many people waste their chances." Kalara left the bridge. She walked through the damaged corridors of her ship, past repair crews working frantically, past the wounded being carried to medical bay. The ship felt different now. It had been blooded, tested, and survived. The medical bay was chaos. Doctors and nurses moved between beds, treating injuries that ranged from minor to critical. Kalara found Ryan in a private room, a concession to his rank. He was unconscious, his chest rising and falling slowly. Medical equipment surrounded him, monitoring his vital signs. A human doctor was reviewing his charts. "How is he?" Kalara asked. The doctor, a young woman named Dr. Patricia Wells, looked up. "He'll live. Lost a lot of blood, multiple lacerations, 3 broken ribs, and a concussion. But he's tough. He'll be back on duty in a few weeks." "A few weeks?" Kalara felt relief wash over her. She'd been expecting worse. "Humans are resilient," Dr. Wells said with a tired smile. "And Commander Blake is more stubborn than most. You can sit with him if you want. He might wake up soon." Kalara pulled a chair to Ryan's bedside. She sat, unsure what to do with her hands. In Xanthari culture, this kind of vigil was reserved for family, for bonds deeper than duty. When had Ryan become that to her? She thought about the past weeks. The late-night conversations. The way he brought her coffee without asking. The moment on the observation deck when he'd almost said something important. The terror she'd felt watching him fight, watching him nearly die. Somewhere along the way, this political marriage had become real. She reached out carefully and took his hand. His skin was warm, his fingers calloused from years of combat. She held his hand and waited. Ryan woke slowly. The first thing he saw was Kalara's face, her scales reflecting the soft light of the medical bay. She looked exhausted, her usually perfect military bearing relaxed. "Hey," he said, his voice rough. Kalara's eyes opened. She'd been dozing in the chair. "You're awake. How long?" 6 hours since the surgery. The doctors say you'll make a full recovery." Ryan tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his ribs. Okay, staying down." "Don't be foolish," Kalara said, but her voice was gentle. She helped him adjust his position, propping pillows behind him. "The fleet?" Ryan asked. "Damaged but intact. We won. The swarm retreated after you destroyed their command ship." "Good." Ryan looked at their hands, realized Kalara was still holding his. "You stayed. Someone had to make sure you didn't die while I was preparing your court-martial," Kalara said. But there was no bite in her words. Ryan smiled. "I disobeyed orders again, didn't I?" "Spectacularly. You left the bridge during combat, engaged in close quarters fighting while injured, and nearly got yourself killed." "Yeah. Sorry about that." "Don't apologize," Kalara said quietly. "You saved the ship. If the swarm had reached the bridge, we'd all be dead." They were quiet for a moment. The medical bay hummed with activity around them, but in this small room it felt like they were alone. "Kalara," Ryan said, "on the observation deck before the battle I was trying to say something. I remember. I was trying to say that somewhere in the last few weeks, this stopped being just duty for me." He met her eyes. "I care about you, not because of the alliance or politics, just because of who you are." Kalara's scales flushed with color, a sign of deep emotion. "I've been thinking the same thing. When I saw you fighting, when I thought you might die..." She stopped, struggling with words. "I realized that losing you would hurt worse than losing a battle. Worse than losing my ship, and that terrifies me." "Because Xanthari don't do emotions like this?" Ryan asked gently. "Because I never expected to actually care about my political husband," Kalara said. "But I do. I care too much," Ryan squeezed her hand. "Is that really such a bad thing?" "It complicates everything." "Maybe," Ryan agreed. "Or maybe it makes everything simpler. Maybe we stop fighting what we feel and just accept it." Kalara was quiet for a long time. Then she leaned forward and touched her forehead to his. A Xanthari gesture of deep affection and trust. "When you're recovered, we need to have a real conversation about this." "I'd like that," Ryan said. Dr. Wells interrupted them, checking Ryan's vital signs. "Everything looks good, Commander. You're healing well. But you need rest." Kalara stood to leave. Ryan caught her hand. "Will you come back?" "Of course," she said. "Someone has to make sure you follow doctor's orders." She left, but her hearts felt lighter than they had in years. Over the next 2 weeks, Ryan recovered slowly. Kalara visited him every day, bringing reports that needed his input but staying longer than necessary. They talked about tactics and strategy, but also about other things: human music and Xanthari poetry, favorite foods, childhood memories. Ryan told her about growing up on Earth in a small town where everyone knew everyone, about joining the military to see the stars, about Lisa and Emma, the grief that still lived in his chest but had become bearable with time. Kalara told him about the pressure of being royalty, of being raised to rule and command, about her brother Tyrak, who she loved but who could be reckless, about the loneliness of command, of always having to be strong. "I never had anyone I could be weak with," she admitted one evening. "Everyone sees the princess, the commander. No one sees just Kalara." "I see her," Ryan said, "and she's pretty amazing." The day Ryan was cleared for duty, Admiral Helena called them both to a briefing. The news was grim. "Intelligence has confirmed that the swarm is moving towards Xanthari Prime," Helena said. "The fleet we destroyed was just a vanguard. The main force is 3 times that size." Kalara felt her blood run cold. How long until they reach my homeworld? 2 weeks, maybe 3, her homeworld. Her family. Millions of civilians who couldn't evacuate in time. This was the nightmare scenario every Xanthari leader feared. We'll stop them, Ryan said firmly. We'll assemble every ship we can, call in every favor, and we'll stop them. The mathematics don't look good, Admiral Threx said from his screen. Even with the full coalition. Xanthari Prime was beautiful from orbit. Blue oceans, green continents, cities that glowed like jewels. Kalara stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, looking at her homeworld, wondering if she'd ever see it peaceful again. The coalition fleet had assembled in high orbit. 200 ships from a dozen species, the largest military force ever gathered. But intelligence said the swarm was bringing 600 ships. The mathematics were brutal and simple. We're getting reports from the surface, the communications officer said. Civilian evacuation is underway, but it's slow. Too many people, not enough transports. Ryan stood beside Kalara, studying the defensive positions. We need to buy them time. Keep the swarm away from the planet as long as possible. How? Kalara asked. Even if we fight perfectly, we can't win against those numbers. We don't have to win, Ryan said. We just have to survive long enough. High Chancellor Vorn's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than Kalara remembered, the weight of war having aged him years and months. Daughter, the evacuation will take at least 48 hours to complete. Then we'll hold for 48 hours, Kalara said with more confidence than she felt. The people are proud of you. Vorn said softly. I'm proud of you. Whatever happens, know that. The transmission ended. Kalara felt Ryan's hand on her shoulder, a gesture of support. My brother is down there, she said quietly. Tyrak. He's helping coordinate the evacuation. He wanted to fight with the fleet, but I ordered him to stay groundside. Smart, Ryan said. He can do more good there. I know. But if this goes wrong, if we can't hold... She stopped, unable to finish the thought. Then we'll make sure it doesn't go wrong, Ryan said firmly. The swarm arrived like a storm. 600 ships emerged from hyperspace, their organic hulls pulsing with sickly light. The sensors went crazy trying to count them all. All ships battle formation Delta, Kalara ordered. Defensive sphere around the planet. Nothing gets through. The fleet moved into position. Human ships mixed with Xanthari cruisers, with the smaller vessels of allied species. They drilled this formation for 2 weeks, practiced coordination until it was instinctive. The swarm attacked in waves. The first wave hit the fleet like a hammer. Plasma fire and kinetic rounds lit up space, ships exploding, shields failing, the chaos of battle consuming everything. Kalara commanded the overall fleet while Ryan managed tactical responses. They'd learned to work together seamlessly, anticipating each other's moves, trusting each other's judgment. Swarm forces concentrating on Sector 7, Ryan called out, reinforcing that position. Acknowledged, Kalara said. All ships in Sector 3 moved to support 7. The battle became a grinding war of attrition. The coalition fleet fought with desperate determination, but the swarm kept coming. For every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more appeared to take its place. Casualties mounting, the tactical officer reported. We've lost 30 ships. Another 40 are damaged. Tell them to hold, Kalara said. We need more time. On the planet's surface, Tyrak coordinated evacuation efforts from the capital city. Transports landed, loaded civilians, and took off every few minutes. But there were millions of people and only so many ships. He watched the battle in orbit through his command center displays. Saw coalition ships dying. Saw his sister's fleet being overwhelmed. The mathematics were clear. They couldn't hold. How many more hours? He asked his aide. Minimum 36 hours to evacuate the capital alone. The outlying cities will take even longer. Tyrak's claws dug into his console. 36 hours. Could the fleet hold that long? In orbit, the answer was becoming clear. They couldn't. Shield generators on the Valiant Dawn are failing, the defensive officer announced. We're down to 40% capacity. An explosion rocked the ship. Swarm plasma fire had punched through their weakened shields. Damage report, Kalara demanded. Hull breach on Deck 12. Fire suppression systems are handling it. But we can't take many more hits like that. Ryan pulled up the tactical display. We need to change tactics. We can't just defend. We need to attack their command structure, force them to reorganize. Their command ships are in the middle of their formation, Kalara said. We'd have to punch through 300 ships to reach them. Then that's what we do, Ryan said. Take our fastest ships, make a strike run. If we can destroy or damage their command structure, it might buy us the time we need. It was insane. It was also their only chance. All ships capable of high-speed maneuvering, Kalara broadcasted, form on the Valiant Dawn. We're making a strike run at their command vessels. 50 ships answered the call. They formed a spear formation, the Valiant Dawn at the point, and drove into the heart of the swarm fleet. The fighting was brutal. Ships exploded on all sides. Swarm vessels tried to block their path, but the coalition ships were faster, more maneuverable. They wove through enemy formations, their weapons firing constantly. The Valiant Dawn led the charge. Kalara commanded, Ryan coordinated fire. They moved as one mind, responding to threats before they fully developed. There, Ryan pointed to a cluster of larger swarm vessels. Those are emitting command frequencies. All ships concentrate fire on those targets, Kalara ordered. The coalition strike force opened fire. Plasma beams and kinetic rounds converged on the command ships. Shields flared and collapsed. Hulls tore apart. But as the command ships died, they released boarding pods, hundreds of them targeting every coalition ship in range. Brace for boarding, Ryan shouted. The pods struck the Valiant Dawn's hull. Alarms screamed as swarm creatures flooded into the ship. Ryan was already moving. Marines, repel boarders. Seal all critical sections. Kalara wanted to stop him to keep him safe on the bridge, but she knew better now. This was who Ryan was. A man who ran toward danger, who fought to protect others even at the cost of himself. Go, she said. But Ryan, come back to me. He paused, looked at her, and nodded. Then he was gone, running toward the sound of combat. Kalara forced herself to focus on commanding the fleet, but part of her attention was always on the internal sensors, watching Ryan's position as he fought through her ship. The strike had worked. The swarm fleet was reorganizing, their attack patterns disrupted. It bought the evacuation time, maybe another 12 hours, but the cost was high. 20 more ships destroyed in the strike run. The Valiant Dawn was heavily damaged, systems failing across the ship, and Ryan was fighting for his life in the lower decks. Kalara watched the sensors as Ryan's team engaged a massive swarm force. The creatures had breached engineering, trying to reach the reactor. If they succeeded, the ship would explode. Ryan and 15 Marines stood between the swarm and the reactor. Kalara watched the tactical display, saw her husband, because that's what he truly was now, fighting against impossible odds. The Marines fell back step by step, making the swarm pay for every meter. Ryan fought at the front, his rifle singing, then his pistol, then his knife. He moved with the desperate grace of a man who had everything to lose. Engineering is secure. The report finally came. Swarm forces repelled. Commander Blake? Kalara asked. Alive. Injured, but alive. Relief flooded through her, but there was no time to dwell on it. The battle continued. For 2 days, the coalition fleet fought. They held the line through determination and sacrifice, through tactics and courage. Ships died. Thousands of crew members perished. But they held. On the planet's surface, the evacuation continued. Transports lifted off continuously, carrying civilians to safety. Tyrak worked without rest, coordinating, organizing, making impossible decisions about who could go and who had to wait. On the second day, a transmission came from deep space. Admiral Helena's voice strained but triumphant. This is the reinforcement fleet. We're jumping in. Hold just a little longer. Hope surged through Kalara. How many ships? 150. Every vessel the coalition could spare from other fronts. The reinforcements arrived in a flash of displaced space. Fresh ships, full weapons, undamaged shields. They crashed into the swarm fleet from behind, catching the enemy in a deadly crossfire. The tide of battle shifted. The swarm, caught between two forces, began to falter. Their coordination broke down. Ships started to retreat. All ships pursue, Kalara ordered. Drive them away from the planet. The coalition fleet, battered but unbroken, pushed forward. The swarm fleet scattered and fled. After 2 days of desperate battle, they'd won, but the victory felt hollow. Kalara looked at the casualty reports. 90 ships destroyed, tens of thousands dead. The price had been terrible. The Valiant Dawn limped into a repair dock, her hull scarred and breached. Kalara walked through her damaged ship, seeing the cost of survival in every burned corridor, every makeshift memorial. She found Ryan in the medical bay, getting his wounds treated. He looked exhausted, his uniform torn and blood-stained. "We won," she said. "Yeah." Ryan's voice was flat. "We won. You don't sound happy." "I am. But I keep thinking about the people we couldn't save. The ships that didn't make it. The Marines who died holding engineering." He looked at her with those tired eyes. "We saved the world, but it cost so much." Kalara sat beside him. "This is the burden of command. We make decisions that save thousands and cost hundreds. We carry the weight of those who died so others could live. How do you bear it?" Ryan asked. 3 weeks after the battle, Kalara stood in the Palace Medical Center staring at the results on the display. The Zenthari doctor, an elderly female named Syrinx, waited patiently for her reaction. "You're certain?" Kalara asked. "Completely certain, Princess. The genetic compatibility treatments worked better than we hoped. You're carrying a child, human and Zenthari. The first of its kind." Kalara sat down slowly. A child. She'd never thought much about having children. Her life was war and duty. But now, carrying Ryan's child, she felt something shift inside her. Hope. A future beyond just survival. "Does Commander Blake know?" Dr. Syrinx asked. "Not yet. I wanted to be sure first." "How far along?" "About 6 weeks. The pregnancy should last approximately 9 months, similar to human gestation, though we'll need to monitor carefully. This is unprecedented." Kalara left the medical center in a daze. She walked through the palace, past workers repairing battle damage, past soldiers standing guard. The world had changed so much in the past months, and now it was changing again. She found Ryan in the war room, reviewing defense plans with Admiral Threx. When he saw her, his face lit up with that small smile she'd grown to love. "Hey, I was just coming to find you. We need to approve the new training protocols. Can we talk?" Kalara asked. "Privately?" Ryan's expression shifted to concern. He made excuses to Threx and followed Kalara to their shared quarters. Yes, shared now. 2 weeks ago they'd moved in together, making their marriage real in every way. "What's wrong?" Ryan asked as soon as the door closed. "Nothing's wrong. Actually, something is very right." Kalara took his hands. "Ryan, I'm pregnant." For a moment, Ryan just stared at her. Then understanding flooded his face, followed by joy so pure it made her heart ache. We're going to have a baby?" "Yes, the first human Zenthari child. Dr. Syrinx says everything looks healthy so far." Ryan pulled her into his arms, holding her carefully as if she might break. I never thought I'd have this again. A family. After Lisa and Emma, I thought that part of my life was over. Are you happy?" Kalara asked, suddenly uncertain. "Happy?" Ryan laughed, and she heard tears in his voice. "Kalara, I'm terrified and overjoyed and completely overwhelmed. But yes, I'm happy." They held each other, two warriors who'd found peace in each other's arms. Outside, the world was still at war. The swarm still threatened. But for this moment, they had something worth fighting for. The news spread quickly through the fleet. The first hybrid child, a symbol of the alliance made real. Reactions were mixed. Some celebrated it as a sign of hope. Others worried about the implications, about genetic compatibility, about tradition. High Chancellor Vorn summoned them both to a formal audience. Kalara expected disapproval. Zenthari bloodlines were traditionally kept pure. But her father surprised her. "A grandchild," he said. His scales showing colors Kalara rarely saw. Joy, pride. "I worried this alliance would cost me my daughter. Instead, it's given me a future." "You're not concerned about the bloodline?" Kalara asked. "I was," Vorn admitted. "For about 5 minutes. Then I realized that traditions change or they die. Our species needs this alliance. This child will be a living bridge between our peoples. That matters more than any tradition." The months passed. Kalara's pregnancy progressed normally, though she refused to stop working. She commanded the fleet from her ship, reviewed defense strategies, and coordinated with the coalition. Ryan hovered constantly, worried about her safety. "I'm pregnant, not fragile," she told him one evening after he'd tried to prevent her from reviewing battle plans. "I know, but let me worry. It's my job now. Your job is commanding half our fleet." "I can multitask," Ryan said with a grin. The swarm hadn't disappeared. They'd retreated to regroup, but intelligence suggested they were planning something big. The coalition used the time to rebuild, to train, to prepare. Tyrak had become a bridge between human and Zenthari forces. He'd seen Ryan fight, seen the truth of human courage, and now he worked tirelessly to integrate their tactics and training. Young Zenthari soldiers learned human close-quarters combat. Human Marines studied Zenthari precision targeting. Your brother has become quite the advocate for humanity, Ryan observed one day, watching Tyrak drill with a mixed unit. He respects strength, Kilara said, and you showed him true strength. Not just physical power, but the strength to fight for others. 6 months into the pregnancy, the swarm made their move. A massive fleet appeared at the edge of Coalition space, bigger than anything they'd seen before. This wasn't a raid or a probing attack. This was an invasion meant to end the war. Kilara stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, her pregnancy now visible but not limiting her movement. How many ships? Current count is 800, the sensor officer said quietly. And they're still arriving. The Coalition could field maybe 400 ships, even pulling vessels from every front. The mathematics were worse than Zenthari Prime. They're not attacking yet, Ryan observed. They're waiting for something. Intelligence provided the answer within hours. The swarm wasn't just bringing ships. They were bringing a weapon, something massive, something that would end the war in one strike. It's called a World Eater, Admiral Helena explained during the emergency briefing. Swarm bioweapon. It doesn't just destroy planets, it converts them into breeding grounds for more swarm forces. How do we stop it? Kilara asked. We don't know if we can, Helena admitted. It's protected by their entire fleet. Even if we could reach it, our weapons might not be effective against something that large. The room fell silent. This was the end game. Win here or lose everything. Ryan studied the tactical display, his mind working through possibilities. What if we don't try to destroy it? What if we just damage it enough that it can't fire? Explain, Vorn said. The World Eater has to be powered by something. Some kind of reactor or biological core. If we can damage that, we might be able to disable it. Ryan pulled up schematics that intelligence had gathered. Here, this structure looks like it could be vital systems. You'd have to get through 800 ships to reach it, Admiral Threck said. Then we get through 800 ships, Ryan said simply. Kilara looked at him. This human who never stopped fighting, who never accepted defeat. She loved him for it even as it terrified her. It's suicide, she said. Maybe, Ryan agreed. But doing nothing is definitely death. At least this way we have a chance. The plan was desperate. The entire Coalition fleet would engage the swarm forces, drawing their attention. Meanwhile, a strike team, the fastest, most maneuverable ships, would punch through to the World Eater. Kilara would command the main fleet. Ryan would lead the strike team. They argued about it in their quarters the night before the battle. Kilara wanted to lead the strike team herself. Ryan insisted that her pregnancy made her too valuable to risk. That's exactly why I should go, Kilara said. This child, our child, deserves a world to live in. I'll fight for that. And I'll fight so our child has a mother, Ryan countered. Kilara, please. Let me do this. She saw the fear in his eyes, the memory of losing his first family. He couldn't bear to lose her too. Then promise me, she said. Promise me you'll come back. I promise, Ryan said. I'll always come back to you. They held each other that night, memorizing the feel of each other's presence just in case. The battle began at dawn, or what passed for dawn in space. The Coalition fleet met the swarm forces head-on, plasma and kinetic weapons lighting up the void. Kilara commanded from the Valiant Dawn, her pregnancy now obvious, but her mind sharp as ever. She watched the tactical display, maneuvering ships, coordinating fire, buying time for Ryan's strike team. Ryan led 20 ships, the fastest vessels in the fleet. They dove into the swarm formation like a spear, weaving through enemy fire, taking terrible losses but pushing forward. 15 ships remaining, Ryan reported over the command channel. His voice was calm, controlled. Keep going, Kilara said. You're almost there. The World Eater loomed ahead, a massive organic structure that pulsed with unnatural life. It was charging, building energy for a shot that would crack planets. It's preparing to fire, the sensor officer said. Target is Zenthari Prime. How long? Kilara asked. 10 minutes until it's fully charged. Ryan's strike team reached the World Eater. Only 8 ships remained. They opened fire, concentrating their weapons on the vital systems Ryan had identified. The World Eater's shields held. They poured fire into it, but nothing seemed to work. It's not enough, Ryan said, frustration in his voice. Our weapons aren't getting through. Kalara watched helplessly. They'd come so far, fought so hard. It couldn't end like this. Then Tyrak's voice came over the channel. Commander Blake, I have an idea. What if we detonate our reactor cores at point-blank range? The explosion might breach the shields. That's suicide, Ryan said. So is letting that thing fire, Tyrak replied. I volunteer. My ship's reactor is already damaged, might as well use it. Tyrak, no, Kalara shouted. I forbid it. Sister, I love you. Tell our parents I'm proud to be Xanthari. And tell the humans, tell them I'm proud to fight beside them too. Before Kalara could respond, Tyrak's ship accelerated toward the World Eater. It crashed into the structure, and his reactor detonated in a massive explosion. The World Eater's shields collapsed. The vital systems were exposed. All ships fire, Ryan ordered.